Hello, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United transfer news daily, giving you the latest Manchester United transfer news and giving you that real fan opinion. We'll never get bored of that. I wonder how many times we'll say that over the summer. It must be in excess of 100. Need to mix it up a little bit. But let's get into it. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo, there's an update with him. Robert Lewandowski, Matuidi, Chris Smalling, Rooney and a couple of others to discuss. So lots to get into. I need to get going on this. But just to give you the overnight update on Ronaldo, some of you may have gone to bed and not realised this, but Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid Presidente, he was confirmed in post around 7:30 UK time last night, but didn't reveal anything about Ronaldo. But there was a rumour that he would speak about him at about 11:30 last night on radio press conference sort of thing, which he did, and he gave three significant updates. One, that he will speak to Ronaldo after the Confederations Cup. Well, the final of that is the 2nd of July, which is 2 weeks ago. I know you're starting to get worried. Two, that he wasn't aware that Ronaldo wanted to leave Real Madrid, which would mean that either he's lying or the press was lying on Friday, that he'd given an ultimatum, an irreversible ultimatum, that he was leaving Real Madrid. It's a bit weird that the Presidente would not be aware of that. And thirdly, he said that Cristiano Ronaldo is part of Real Madrid and has a contract. So they're not encouraging points, although I have seen some United fans finding that quite encouraging, that Florentino Perez would say the bottom line is that he has a contract with Real Madrid. It could sound quite a defensive statement, but I think the fair thing to say is that he's not spoken to Cristiano Ronaldo. I think in his words he indicated not since the Champions League final in Cardiff. So that discussion needs to be had. Look, have I gone any more than 10% that I think he'll sign, 90% sure that he won't? Probably not. Maybe I was a little bit defensive with only 10%, but it's certainly not gone up from 10% based on them comments from Perez. He's obviously not had the chat with Ronaldo yet. And as I always said, it's that chat that will define what happens with Ronaldo. And that chat from Real Madrid will be, what do you want to stay? Ronaldo will tell him and he will stay. And that's what I think will happen. So that's the Ronaldo update for today. The more important thing from it is regardless of anything, and we touched on it on the Skype show last night. What a great show it was with so many of you calling in. Do give that a watch. But we touched on it last night. Manchester United, if they had any inclination of going for Ronaldo, which surely they must if he's available, Mourinho agent is Jorge Mendes. Jorge Mendes is the agent to Ronaldo. There needs to be a conversation now, today, or yesterday, or the weekend, but very much in the present, with Mendes to ask Ronaldo, does he really want to come to Manchester United? And if it's just playing Real Madrid to get more money out of them, tell Manchester United that, or Mourinho that, and Mourinho can go, fine, you carry on. We'll play that game with you to help you out, but we need to crack on with our targets. Thank you, Cristiano, and we crack on. What we can't do is wait till early July for Ronaldo to have a chat with Real Madrid, and then we decide what we're going to do. And what will end up is, what will happen is we'll end up without the targets we were after, and without Ronaldo, and we'll be in a Sergio Ramos situation again, where we're going on a US tour and we haven't got all our targets in, and it's very rushed, and then you're in a season and we've not prepared right, and I think we need to sort that out. Lewandowski, let me talk about Robert Lewandowski. He will be 29 years of age in August. He is just over 6 foot. I think he's about 6'1", 6'2". One of the best strikers in Europe. Now, there's an interesting thing I was reading yesterday in The Independent, I think it was, and they were saying that Mourinho's list, this list of players that he wants, it isn't like 4 players like Morata, Perisic, Eric Dyer and Lindelof. It's not 4 players long. It isn't 4 players long. It is actually 25 players on the list. And what Mourinho has done, he's broken it down into positions that he wants, and he's put them 5 players in each position based on what he would want priority-wise. And I think it's the first time I've heard it, but it makes a lot of sense to just say to Ed Woodward, there's my list. And we know Griezmann was on it. So my list is Griezmann, Morata, Perisic, Lindelof and Eric Dyer. Well, sorry, Jose, what if I can't get you Morata? Oh, I haven't really thought about it. You know, it does make sense that there are a number of players for each position. Apparently 5 for each positions, which would mean there's going to be 5 signings if that's true. And I'm sure there's a little bit of poetic license there. But the interesting thing is, in relation to the striking positions, the 5 players that Mourinho apparently prioritised for the number 9 were Lewandowski, Morata, Belotti, Griezmann and Lukaku. Well, Lukaku's going to Chelsea. Griezmann snubbed us. Belotti, we don't want to pay the £84 million release fee. We thought we'd get him a bit cheaper. Morata's still ongoing, and Lewandowski was never, Mourinho apparently thought was never a realistic target, which actually I said last night, I don't think Lewandowski is. But when you actually look into Lewandowski, there is quite an interesting reason why Lewandowski is being mentioned by Manchester United. It's not totally lazy. He genuinely was not happy at Bayern Munich, especially in relation to the last game of the season last year. And some of you might know this, but the vast majority probably weren't aware of it, that he was actually very close to winning the German equivalent of the Golden Boot. In fact, they probably do call it. There's the yawn. There's the morning yawn. They do call it the Golden Boot. He had it in his hands, and he lost it on the last game of the season to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And Lewandowski was quite open about the fact that he felt let down by Ancelotti and his teammates that he couldn't get that trophy. Sounds a little bit like toys out the pram. However, his agent has recently backed that up, that Lewandowski was genuinely annoyed and frustrated. Is that enough for him to leave? He's got a contract till 2021. Would I have him at Manchester United? Yes, I would. Like I say, one of the best number 9s in world football, and he'd be very good for Manchester United. But I can't see Bayern Munich letting him go. It's not the same as Ronaldo, because Ronaldo's one of the best players of our time. But Lewandowski is one of the best strikers in the world, and for Bayern Munich to replace him is quite difficult. Now, obviously, they are linked to Alexis Sanchez, but I doubt Alexis Sanchez is going to play as their number 9. So again, I think Bayern Munich, as much as Manchester United may well be interested, yawn too, prizing him away with such a big contract. And let's not forget, we offered Bayern Munich £80 million for Thomas Muller 2 years ago. Imagine how much they would want for Lewandowski, knowing that we've offered silly money for their players before. So I don't think it would happen, but apparently he's on the list for Mourinho, and he is worth a mention. The next player I want to mention is Blaise Matuidi of PSG. We've spoken about centre defensive midfielder. We know we need one. I've been consistent about this for many months now, saying that ideally we need somebody who, you look at Wanyama at Spurs, you look at Kante at Chelsea, it's not a coincidence that those two teams came first and second in the Premier League with players like that in their midfield. At the moment, it's the modern phenomenon, that sort of energetic player. I remember watching Kante play Liverpool at Anfield earlier on in the year, and Chelsea didn't play that well, but Kante was like two players. He was absolutely everywhere. And Manchester United do need that sort of energy in the midfield, which will aid people like Paul Pogba. So we need to get a centre defensive midfielder. We were hoping Fabinho, and to be honest, Fabinho's not really two players. He's not really Kante. I do like Fabinho, but he's not really that sort of player. I think he'd be perfect for us. Matuidi is more that sort of player. He is very tenacious, quick into the tackle, good at breaking the ball up, and he's actually better on the ball than Kante. The interesting thing about Matuidi is that we've said we were going to talk about a centre defensive midfielder on the transfer morning show every day this week. We did Raja Nainggolan yesterday from Roma. He'd be my number 1 choice. Matuidi would be in my top 3 of either him, Fabinho, or Nainggolan. I like Matuidi. I think he would be good for us. I've heard people saying, oh no, he's not good enough, but he is. He's a very good midfielder. He's used to playing with Pogba with the French setup, and I think he'd suit Manchester United really well. Adding to the fact that Mini Raiola is his agent, adding to the fact that his contract is up in 2018, he's only got a year left on his contract. Yes, he will be 30. I think I did write this down. I think he is. He's 30 already. He just turned 30 in April, so he's a little bit old. Some United fans out there of the FIFA generation will say he's a granddad at 30, but he's got a couple of years left in him. And I remember saying this probably about 6 months ago. The positive about signing Matuidi is that yes, he's probably only got a couple of years, 3 years left in him, but Fosu Mensah, 3 years time, will be the best midfielder in the world, I hope. And what better player to learn from than Matuidi for 2 or 3 years? Because the thing about Fosu Mensah is, yeah, he's got Michael Carrick there, he's got Herrera there, but these aren't the sort of player that Fosu Mensah is going to be. Fosu Mensah is going to be like your Michael Essien, like, you know, he's better than Kante on the ball, but that sort of energetic midfielder. He hasn't really got anybody to learn from in that mould. Matuidi would be perfect for that. So Matuidi ticks a lot of boxes for me, and I think we'd get a good price for him as well. I think we'd get him for as little as 20 to 25 million with a year left on his contract and at the age he is. So I do like him, and I'd be interested to see whether Manchester United pursue that deal, because I'm certainly not that interested. I'm not interested in Eric Dyer. Although what I would say about Matuidi is he's only 5'10", which isn't bad for a centre defensive midfielder. But if you look at Fabinho's 6'2", Eric Dyer's 6'2", Matic is over 6'2". Mourinho likes a bit of height, and maybe that's why he doesn't like Matuidi. That would not be my reason not to go for him, by the way. But yeah, I do like Matuidi. And I also wanted to just give a quick mention of Chris Smalling. Chris Smalling being touted around by a lot of people, a lot of clubs. West Ham, Arsenal have been mentioned. 27 years of age. I know a lot of United fans don't like Chris Smalling, but I've always been quite consistent. I do think that as a 4 centre-backs options throughout the season, Smalling is a player that I would keep hold of. Why would you go and sign Michael Keane when you've got Chris Smalling? I don't think there's any difference, and Smalling knows the way of Manchester United. Like in the Europa League final, we couldn't play Eric Bailly, so Smalling came in, he did a decent job with Blind, and we won that trophy, and we kept a clean sheet. So if it's Smalling or Jones, I keep Smalling every day of the week, because Jones, doesn't matter how good Jones is, he'll let you down injury-wise. So I suppose the thing with Smalling is we'd probably get a bit of money for him, and one thing that nobody's really spoken about this summer is, yes, Manchester United can spend a lot of money, but they probably want to balance the books a little bit. You look at what we did in January, we got good money for Schneidlin, we got good money for Memphis. If we can get good money for Smalling and Janusaj and a couple of others, we could bring in 100 million, which we've never really been good at before. I mean, the worst summer I ever remember was Hernandez, Van Persie, Raphael, Nani going for less than £17 million, and that was 2 years ago. And those players weren't in their 30s then. It was bloody ridiculous. But I think United under Mourinho and Woodward have sorted this out, and we do get good money for people, and you probably get 20 million for Chris Smalling, maybe even more. At 27, actually, we probably should get 30 million. If Van Dijk's going for 60 million, then Smalling should go at least for 30 million. But we'll see what happens on that. Give us your thoughts on Smalling, give us your thoughts on Lewandowski. Matuidi, I really want to see your thoughts on, and the Ronaldo situation in relation to those developments from the president saying that he wasn't aware that Ronaldo had put a transfer request in, that Ronaldo's got a contract, and that he will speak to Ronaldo in early July. What does that mean for our transfer plans? Can we put them on hold for 2 weeks? Lots to talk about on today. Get commenting below. Don't forget to drop us a like, and we're live again tonight at 8:30 as per usual, unless something else happens in between. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all soon.